Okay, so real talk. Who hasn't daydreamed about quitting their job and just taking off to, I don't know, some tropical island?
Yeah, Fiji, maybe.
Great, Fiji. But the real point is that desire for, financial freedom, that's something I think we all kind of crave. And that's exactly what we're going to be diving into today.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins.
Classic.
And one of the things I really dig about this book is that it's so straightforward. It cuts through all the financial jargon and gives you these clear, actionable steps to build wealth.
Totally. It speaks to that learner in all of us.
Exactly. So in this deep dive, our mission is to extract the core principles that can help us get out of debt, make our money work for us, and, ultimately reach that financial independence.
That we all dream of.
For sure.
What's interesting about Collins is that, unlike a lot of financial gurus, he doesn't come from this privileged background of wealth.
Yeah, he's really relatable.
Right. He actually started out just as clueless about money as many of us are. In fact, there's this great anecdote in the book about how he knew nothing about investing. Nothing. Until he randomly met this millionaire at a party.
I love that story.
Oh, it's so good.
It really shows that anyone can become financially savvy.
Anyone.
Yeah.
Regardless of where they come from. And you know what? That millionaire actually gave him the advice that became the cornerstone of his entire financial philosophy.
It's pretty wild how a chance encounter like that can change your whole trajectory. So let's break down those core principles, those foundational elements that Collins talks about.
Sounds good.
He emphasizes 3 pillars of financial independence: frugality, investing, and intentional living. What are your thoughts on his approach to frugality?
I think a lot of people hear frugality and they immediately think deprivation, giving up all the good things in life.
Right, like becoming a hermit who eats ramen every night.
Exactly. But Collins' take on it is so refreshing. It's not about deprivation, it's about being mindful.
Mindful spending.
Yes. Remember that example he gives about brewing your own delicious coffee at home for pennies on the dollar?
Versus dropping $5 on a latte every day.
Right. It's about making those conscious choices that align with your values. You can still enjoy your coffee,
Yeah.
But maybe you skip the overpriced latte and put those savings towards something that actually means something to you.
I love that.
It's about recognizing that even small, consistent savings can snowball over time, especially when you couple it with smart investing.
Which brings us to the next pillar, investing. And, Collins is a huge advocate for those low-cost index funds. I've actually heard them called the lazy person's investment, which, to be honest, kind of speaks to me.
Well, they're simple, but they're also incredibly effective. And for, our listeners who are already pretty knowledgeable about finance, I think it's worth unpacking why they work so well. So you've got these broad market index funds like the S&P 500, which tracks the performance of 500 of the largest U.S. companies.
So rather than trying to pick individual stocks, you're essentially investing in a little piece of all of them.
Yes, diversification at its finest. And it's not just limited to large cap stocks. You've got total market funds that offer even broader diversification, including those small cap and mid cap stocks.
So there's an index fund for pretty much any risk tolerance or investment goal.
Exactly. It's not one size fits all. You can tailor it. And the key takeaway that Collins stresses is that historically, these passively managed index funds, with their low fees, they've actually outperformed actively managed funds.
Interesting. So you're saying those high-priced fund managers who try to pick winners and losers are often not as successful as just letting the market do its thing.
That's often the case, and Collins backs it up with a lot of data. So we've talked about mindful spending with frugality and smart investing. But what about this whole intentional living thing? I have to admit, it sounds kind of, woo-woo.
Yeah, a little wee.
I get it. But trust me, it's actually very practical. Remember that millionaire we were talking about earlier? The one Collins met at the party?
Yeah, the guy who gave him the life-changing advice.
That's the one. So this guy, he owned all these fancy sports cars, a whole collection of them.
Must have been nice.
You'd think, right?
Yeah.
But he actually admitted to Collins that they didn't really bring him joy.
Really? They were just for show?
Yeah, they were more of a status symbol, something he felt like he should have.
Wow.
And that's what intentional living is all about. It's about questioning those societal expectations about what we should have, what we should buy. It's about aligning your spending with what truly matters to you.
Because it's defining what a rich life means to you.
Exactly. and then making those financial choices that support that vision.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about building this, solid foundation for financial independence, but there's one big thing we haven't addressed yet.
What's that?
Debt. That elephant in the room.
Oh,
I think a lot of our listeners probably know that feeling of being weighed down by, student loans or credit card bills. It can feel really overwhelming.
it's incredibly common. And to his credit, Collins doesn't shy away from it. He talks about it very openly and honestly.
Yes.
He really emphasizes that those interest payments, those aren't just numbers on a statement.
They're real money.
Yeah, and more importantly, they represent freedom. Like literally being chipped away.
That's a great way to put it.
Think about it. Every dollar you're paying in interest is a dollar that you can't use to invest in your future or to pursue your passions.
Yeah, it's like you're working for the bank instead of working for yourself. Okay, so how do we get out from under this, debt monster?
Well, Collins talks about two main approaches, the debt snowball and the debt avalanche.
Right. I've heard of those. Remind me how they work again.
Sure. So the snowball method, that's all about those quick wins, those psychological boosts to keep you motivated.
I like the sound of that.
It's about targeting your smallest debts first, regardless of the interest rate, and just knocking them out one by one.
So you get that sense of progress, which helps you stay on track.
Exactly. You're like, boom, got that credit card bill out of here.
I love it. But then there's the debt avalanche. That one's a bit more strategic, right?
It is. The avalanche method is all about tackling those high interest debts first. So yeah, you might not see those quick wins like you do with the snowball method, but in the long run, you'll probably get out of debt faster and save more money overall.
Got it. So both methods have their pros and cons.
They do.
It's about choosing the one that fits your personality and your financial situation.
Precisely. But regardless of which method you choose, one thing Collins really hammers home is the importance of building an emergency fund.
Right, that safety net.
Yes. Having at least 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved can really prevent you from falling back into debt.
Because those unexpected expenses, they always pop up, right? A broken appliance or a sudden medical bill.
Exactly. Having that emergency fund gives you that peace of mind, knowing that a little financial hiccup won't completely derail your plan.
Makes total sense. Okay, so we've talked about how to get out of existing debt, but what about avoiding it in the first place? How do we stop ourselves from falling back into those bad habits?
Well, Collins talks about this fundamental mindset shift. Understanding the difference between a need and a want. It's really easy, especially these days, to get swept up in all the marketing and consumerism. We buy things we don't really need just because they're on sale or because everyone else has one.
Oh yeah, we've all been there.
Imagine you're standing in line at the store, about to make a purchase. Ask yourself, do I truly need this, or am I just buying it on impulse?
That's a great question to ask yourself.
Because those impulse buys, they add up.
For sure. And I think credit cards play a big role in that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
They make it so easy to spend money you don't actually have, and those high interest rates can get out of control pretty quickly.
Yeah. Collins is really cautious about credit cards. He advocates for using them responsibly or, finding alternative payment methods.
Like debit cards or even just good old-fashioned cash.
Right. Whatever helps you stay mindful of your spending. And all of this really boils down to financial literacy, which Collins stresses throughout the book.
Yeah. Knowledge is power when it comes to money.
It really is. The more you understand about personal finance, the better equipped you'll be to make smart decisions and avoid those costly mistakes. So
it's about taking control of your financial destiny, essentially.
Exactly. Becoming the CEO of your own money. Welcome back. So, we've talked about those foundational elements. Frugality, getting out of debt. But I think now's the time to really get into the exciting stuff.
Let's do it.
Investing. Putting your money to work.
Yeah, I gotta admit, investing always felt like this, big, scary world, just way too complicated. But that's why I appreciate how Collins approaches it. He breaks it down and makes it feel like, okay, I can actually do this.
Yeah, you don't have to be, some Wall Street hotshot.
Exactly.
It's about those core principles and, most importantly, patience.
Right. Patience.
It's not about, getting rich quick. It's about building wealth over time.
Okay, so in the last part, we touched on index funds.
Yeah.
But I think we're ready to go a little deeper now. What exactly is it about index funds that makes them so, magical?
Well, think about it. trying to pick individual stocks.
Yeah.
Like trying to pick a winning horse in a race.
Oh, okay.
Super risky. You never know what's going to happen.
Right.
But index funds, it's like you're betting on the whole field.
The whole field.
Yeah, you're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
They track a specific market index, like the S&P 500, which means you're instantly diversified across a ton of companies.
So I'm spreading my risk instead of, hoping one single company does well.
Exactly. And the thing is, these companies in the index, they're not just random. They've met certain criteria, like market capitalization and financial performance. So you're getting a piece of some pretty solid players.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But I remember we talked a little bit about passive management.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean?
So passive management means that instead of trying to beat the market, you're just like riding the wave.
Riding the wave, I like that.
These index funds, they're not constantly buying and selling stocks. They're just tracking the index.
So no fancy analysts trying to predict the future.
Nope. Which also means the fees are much lower. And this is where Collins makes a really powerful point. Studies show that over time, those low-cost index funds, they consistently outperform those actively managed funds.
So I'm actually better off just letting the market do its thing.
It's like the tortoise and the hare.
Yeah.
Slow and steady often wins the race.
Love that. Okay, so say I'm convinced I want to jump into index funds. What do I need? How much money do I have to get started?
That's the great thing. You don't need a ton of money to start.
Really?
What matters is consistency. You set up an account with a brokerage firm like Vanguard or Fidelity, pick your index fund, and then boom, invest regularly.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a little bit every month.
So it's more about building that habit of investing.
Yes. Collins has this great analogy of a snowball rolling down a hill. At first it's tiny.
Yeah.
But as it keeps rolling, it picks up more and more snow, gets bigger and bigger until it's this unstoppable force. That's compound growth. Your money's working for you, earning interest on interest.
I love that image. Small, consistent investments, just like that snowball, they really build up over time.
And time, that's the other key factor Collins talks about. Time is your biggest asset.
Time. How so?
Well, the earlier you start investing, the longer your money has to grow.
So even if I don't have a lot to invest right now, just starting is important.
Exactly. Don't let procrastination steal years of potential growth.
Okay, that's a good point. But what about the ups and downs? The market can be pretty unpredictable. How do I avoid freaking out and making bad decisions when things get bumpy?
Collins recommends something he calls a written investment policy statement.
What is that?
It's like your investment constitution.
Oh, okay.
It outlines your goals, your risk tolerance, how you'll handle market swings. So when things get crazy, you've got this plan to refer back to.
So it takes the emotion out of it.
Exactly. You're not making decisions based on fear or panic.
Yeah.
You're sticking to your plan.
That makes a lot of sense. So we're wrapping up our deep dive into the simple path to wealth. And I gotta say, Collins really makes investing surprisingly engaging.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
But I think what really sticks with me, beyond the nuts and bolts of index funds and all that, is that there's this bigger message here.
Oh, for sure.
It's not just about, accumulating wealth for wealth's sake.
It's about purpose, right?
Yeah.
Using your wealth to create a life you actually love.
Exactly. It's like he's saying, okay, so you figured out the financial stuff. Now what? What are you going to do with it?
And I think that's what financial independence really boils down to,
Yeah.
It's not about becoming a millionaire necessarily. It's about having choices.
Options.
Yeah. Freedom to pursue your passions, to live life on your own terms.
To design a life you don't need a vacation from.
I love that. A life where you're not constantly stressed about money or stuck in a job you hate.
And that's the power of the simple path to wealth, right? It's not just about financial tactics. It's about a whole mindset shift.
It really is.
Okay, so as we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with a little challenge, something to chew on.
Good idea.
Take a minute and just visualize your ideal life. What does financial freedom look like for you? And then ask yourself, what's one tiny step I can take this week to, move closer to that vision?
It could be anything. Setting up an automatic transfer to your savings account. Or finally opening that investment account you've been putting off. The point is to just start somewhere.
Exactly. Progress over perfection. We really hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge and the motivation to start your own journey toward financial independence.
It's totally possible for anyone.
And remember, you're not alone in this. Collins's book is a fantastic guide, and there are so many resources out there, communities, podcasts, websites.
Tons of support.
So keep learning, keep exploring, and keep reaching for that life of freedom.
That's what it's all about.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll catch you next week with another awesome topic and another opportunity to, learn and grow together.